Welcome to Quiz Time. I'm your quiz master, Sean, and I've got 100 questions for you about general knowledge stuff arts, history, economics, government, everything you can think of. We'll test our knowledge on, shall we? Let's have some fun and begin with number 1. Yes, that rhymed. During which American president's administration did the infamous Watergate scandal unravel, leading to his resignation? Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, or John F. Kennedy? And that president was Richard Nixon. Which island is home to the mysterious Maui statues, carved by the Rapi Nui people, and why were they placed facing inland? Crete for religious rituals, Iceland to ward off invaders, or Easter Island to protect the people? That was Easter Island, to protect the people. What unexpected effects did the 18th Amendment have on alcohol consumption in the U.S.? It boosted the economy, alcohol was made legal again, or it led to an increase in organized crime? It led to an increase in organized crime. Despite having passed Earth many times without incident before, which astronomical event in 1910 resulted in widespread panic? Was it Halley's Comet? Was it a solar eclipse? Or was it the passing of an asteroid? It was Halley's Comet. Why did Queen Victoria, known for her independence, need her mother to live with her until adulthood? Due to strict royal protocols, to safeguard the royal bloodline, or because of a law passed during her father's reign? It was due to strict royal protocols. What unexpected discovery did researchers find when they unearthed the famous terracotta army in China? It was buried in a pyramid, it was guarding an ancient tomb, or it was meant to protect an emperor in the afterlife? It was meant to protect an emperor in the afterlife. In ancient Rome, what was the original purpose of the Colosseum? And why did gladiators often not die during combat? For religious ceremonies, to honor the gods, as a meeting place, to discuss politics, or for entertainment? It was for entertainment, to keep the crowd happy. How did the Berlin Wall's construction in 1961 divide families, and what unlikely method did some East Berliners use to escape? They dug tunnels under the wall, by sailing across a river, or by hiding in trade shipments. They dug tunnels under the wall. Why did the British government officially send convicts to Australia in the late 1700s? And how did this practice impact its future? To explore new lands, to relieve overcrowded prisons, or to establish a colony? It was to relieve overcrowded prisons. What surprising details about prehistoric life were revealed by the discovery of the frozen body of Otzi in the Alps? His belongings were well preserved, he was a wealthy leader, or he had tattoos for medical purposes. His belongings were well preserved. Why did knights wear colorful coats of arms, and how were they passed down through generations? As a symbol of royalty, for religious purposes, or distinguish themselves in battle? Those colorful coats of arms were meant to distinguish themselves in battle. Which event led to the construction of the Eiffel Tower, initially intended to be a temporary structure? The 1889 World's Fair, the French Revolution, or the Franco-Prussian War? It was the 1889 World's Fair. What ancient civilization built Machu Picchu, and what was its purpose before it was abandoned? The Aztecs as a trade center, the Incas as a royal estate, or the Mayans as a religious site? It was built by the Incas as a royal estate. Why did the once powerful Ottoman Empire suddenly collapse in the early 20th century after centuries of dominance? Was it a devastating famine, a rebellion by the provinces, or because of its involvement in World War I? It was because because of its involvement in World War I. How did the 1956 Suez Crisis challenge British and French control of waterways, and which surprising country mediated? The United States, India, or China? It was the United States. How did Alexander the Great's vast empire crumble so quickly after his death, despite his extensive conquests? His generals fought over control, it was overrun by invaders, or his lands were divided among his heirs. His generals fought over control. Which Roman emperor is credited with making Christianity the empire's official religion, forever altering its course? Augustus, Constantine, or Julius Caesar? That would be Emperor Constantine. Which country, often overlooked, was the first to grant women the right to vote in 1893, leading the way for other nations to follow? New Zealand, Finland, or Canada? That would be New Zealand. Why was the 1942 Battle of Midway pivotal in the Pacific theater of World War II, despite the odds against the U.S. Navy? The U.S. had superior aircraft, the U.S. cracked Japanese codes, or a typhoon weakened Japan's forces? The U.S. cracked Japanese codes. What ancient Roman innovation enabled cities to expand by offering a dependable water source that is still utilized today in some form? Aqueducts, Roman baths, or dams? And that would be aqueducts. What groundbreaking theory did Charles Darwin introduce in his 1859 book On the Origin of the Species, which was controversial then? The Big Bang Theory, cell theory, or natural selection? And that would be the theory of natural selection. Which European nation was the first to adopt Christianity as its state religion in 301 AD, centuries before it became widespread elsewhere? Armenia, Greece, or Italy? And that nation was Italy. Why was the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883 so devastating, not just for the local area, but for the entire planet's climate? It triggered a volcanic winter, it caused a massive tsunami, or it destroyed an entire island. It triggered a volcanic winter. How did the Wright brothers test aircraft designs before their successful 1903 flight? They tested them underwater, they built a wind tunnel, they launched their planes off cliffs. They built a wind tunnel. What ancient civilization created cuneiform, an early writing system, and what material was used for writing? Sumerians on clay tablets, Egyptians on papyrus, or Greeks on stone? It was Sumerians writing on clay tablets. What surprising animal did ancient Egyptians believe represented the goddess Bastet, often leading them to keep it as a revered pet? Was it crocodiles? Was it falcons? Or was it cats? It was kitty cats. Meow. Why did the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 end Napoleon's rule over France, despite his early return to power? He fell ill during battle, his troops rebelled, or a group of European armies overcame him? A group of European armies overcame him. What event in 1066 altered English history, and why was it significant for the monarchy? The War of Roses, the signing of the Magna Carta, the Norman conquest at the Battle of Hastings? It was the Norman conquest at the Battle of Hastings. Why did the sinking of the Lusitania in 1915 provoke outrage despite warnings from the German Navy about the dangers of sailing through war zones? It was an American ship, it was a military vessel or it was carrying civilians. It was carrying civilians. What proclamation did Abraham Lincoln issue in 1863 that changed the course of the Civil War? The Declaration of Independence? Was it the Gettysburg Address? Or was it the Emancipation Proclamation? It was the Emancipation Proclamation. What landmark legislation, enacted in 1965, aimed to secure voting rights for African Americans, particularly in the South? The Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, or the Fair Housing Act? In '65, it was the Voting Rights Act. What gathering in 1848 is considered the start of the women's suffrage movement in the U.S.? The Seneca Falls Convention, the first Women's Day, or the National Women's Suffrage Association meeting? It was the Seneca Falls Convention. What was the main purpose behind building the Berlin Wall in 1961? To protect West Berlin from invasions? To promote tourism in East Berlin? Or to stop East Germans from escaping to the West? It was to stop East Germans from escaping to the West. What nuclear exchange threatened to break out between the United States and the Soviet Union in 1962? The Cuban Missile Crisis, the Korean War, or the Bay of Pigs invasion? That would be the Cuban Missile Crisis. What unexpected outcome did the California gold rush of 1849 have on the region's population, leading to a more diverse society? The growth of agricultural communities, the decline in local businesses, or increased migration from different countries? It was increased migration from different countries. Which historic event in 1776 marked the 13 American colonies' Declaration of Independence from British rule? Was it the Boston Tea Party? Was it the Articles of Confederation? Or was it the Declaration of Independence? The Declaration of Independence. In what year did the Berlin Wall fall, symbolizing the end of the Cold War and the reunification of Germany? 1989, 1991, or 1985? That would be 1989. What cultural revolution in the 1960s and 1970s challenged traditional values and norms, especially among young people in the US and the UK? The Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, or the counterculture movement? That would be the counterculture movement. Which ancient wonder, built in ancient Greece, was dedicated to the goddess Athena and is renowned for its architectural brilliance? The Parthenon, the Colossus of Rhodes, or the Lighthouse of Alexandria? The Parthenon. What was the underlying cause of the American Civil War that began in 1861, leading to significant social and political changes? The debate over slavery, the dispute over states' rights, or economic differences between North and South? It was the debate over slavery. Which major environmental disaster in the 1980s led to significant change in U.S. environmental policy and public awareness? The Chernobyl disaster, the Love Canal incident, or the Bhopal gas tragedy? It was the Love Canal incident. Which popular movement in the 19th century aimed to abolish slavery and had a profound impact on American society? The temperance movement, the suffragette movement, or the abolitionist movement? It was the abolitionist movement. What major economic event occurred in 1929, leading to widespread financial hardship and a reevaluation of economic practices? Was it the Great Depression, the stock market crash, or the Dust Bowl? It was the stock market crash. What cultural phenomenon of the 1920s, characterized by jazz music and flappers, is often referred to as the Jazz Age? The Roaring Twenties, the Gilded Age, or the Great Awakening? And that would be the Roaring Twenties. Which pivotal event in 1865 officially ended the Civil War and led to the abolition of slavery in the United States? The 13th Amendment, the Gettysburg Address, or the Emancipation Proclamation? And that would be the 13th Amendment. What catastrophic event in 1918 caused millions of deaths worldwide and is often referred to as a pandemic? The Great Plague, the Spanish flu, or the Asian flu? That would be the Spanish flu. What was the primary focus of the civil rights movement in the United States during the 1950s and 1960s? Women's suffrage, racial equality and justice, or labor rights? That would be racial equality and justice. What artistic movement, flourishing in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, emphasized spontaneity and the depiction of everyday life? Impressionism, Surrealism, or Cubism? That would be Impressionism. Which famous British monarch ruled during the height of the British Empire and is associated with an era of industrial expansion? Queen Elizabeth I, King Henry VIII, or Queen Victoria? That would be Queen Victoria. Which legendary American folk hero is known for his adventurous life and exploration on the frontier during the 19th century? Davy Crockett, Paul Bunyan, or Johnny Appleseed? That would be Davy Crockett. In which battle during the Napoleonic Wars did the British Navy, led by Admiral Nelson, achieve a decisive victory? Was it the Battle of Trafalgar, the Battle of Waterloo, or was it Adam Smith? That was the Battle of Trafalgar. Published in 1605, Miguel de Cervantes wrote which famous novel, if often considered among the greatest? War and Peace, Don Quixote, or the Divine Comedy? He wrote Don Quixote. What was the name of the ship that brought the Pilgrims of North America in 1620, marking an important event in U.S. history? The Mayflower, the Santa Maria, or the HMS Victory? It was the Mayflower. Which notable speech by President Abraham Lincoln began with the famous line, "Fourscore-and-7 years ago"? Was that the Gettysburg Address, the Emancipation Proclamation, or the Declaration of Independence? That was the Gettysburg Address. What event in 1986 involved a nuclear reactor explosion, becoming one of the worst nuclear disasters in history? Fukushima, Chernobyl, or 3 Mile Island? That would be Chernobyl. Which war between the British and the Boers in South Africa marked the beginning of the end of British colonial rule in the region? Was it the Zulu War, the Boer War, or the Anglo-Sikh War? It was the Boer War. What powerful empire, centered in modern-day Iran, once stretched from Egypt to India and was known for its complex administration? The Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, or the Persian Empire? It was the Persian Empire. Which U.S. president signed the act that established the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, in 1958? Harry Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, or John F. Kennedy? Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the act that created NASA. In which European city was the Treaty of Westphalia signed in 1648, bringing an end to the 30 Years' War? Vienna, Munster, or Prague? And that city would be Munster. In 1897, what event in Klondike, Canada prompted thousands of people to undertake dangerous journeys in search of fortune? The Yukon Stampede, the Klondike Gold Rush, or the Canadian oil boom? That was the Klondike Gold Rush. Regarding the starving peasants, which French queen was reported mistakenly to have exclaimed, "Let them eat cake"? Was that Catherine de Medici, Marie Antoinette, or Eleanor of Aquitaine? That was Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. In 1885, the first successful vaccine for rabies was developed by which French scientist? Louis Pasteur, Antoine Lavoisier, or Henri Becquerel? That was Louis Pasteur. Which unusual sea phenomenon, sometimes known as the St. Elmo's fire of the sea, involves glowing blue waves seen at night? Bioluminescence, phosphorescence, or tidal luminescence? That would be bioluminescence. Which famous explorer's last words were, "I've only ever loved adventure"? Sir Francis Drake, David Livingstone, or Sir Ernest Shackleton? Those are the last words of Sir Ernest Shackleton. What peculiar event in 1815 caused global temperatures to drop, leading to what is called the Year Without Summer? The Krakatoa eruption, Mount Tambora eruption, or the Mount Vesuvius eruption? That would be the Mount Tambora eruption. Which disease, known as the Black Death, wiped out an estimated one-third of Europe's population in the 14th century? The bubonic plague, smallpox, or the Spanish flu? That would be the bubonic plague. Which bird species migrates from the Arctic to Antarctica and back annually, covering around 25,000 miles? The Arctic tern, the albatross, or the wandering falcon? That would be the Arctic tern. Which warship, famously raised from the seabed in 1982 after sinking during its maiden voyage in 1628, is now housed in a museum in Stockholm? The HMS Victory, the Vasa, or the USS Monitor? That would be Vasa. What notorious conflict, lasting from 1455 to 1487, saw the House of Lancaster and the House of York battle for the English throne? The 100 Years' War, the War of the Roses, or the English Civil War? That would be the War of the Roses. Which astronomical discovery by Galileo Galileo in 1610 challenged the belief that everything revolved around the Earth? The moons of Jupiter, Saturn's rings, or solar flares? That would be the moons of Jupiter. Which country, famous for its tulip fields and windmills, experienced an economic bubble in the 17th century known as tulip mania? France, the Netherlands, or Belgium? That would be the Netherlands. In 1967, what major space exploration milestone did Soviet cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov tragically not survive? The first moon landing, the first spacewalk, or the first spaceflight fatality? That was the first spaceflight fatality. During Prohibition in the United States, what infamous gang leader became a symbol of organized crime in Chicago? Al Capone, John Dillinger, or Lucky Luciano? That would be Al Capone. In 1933, which event led to a mass migration of families from the Dust Bowl region to California, seeking better living conditions? The Dust Bowl Exodus, the Gold Rush, or the Great Migration? That was the Dust Bowl Exodus. Which animal species, once thought extinct, was rediscovered in the deep jungles of Vietnam in 1992? Shocking biologists. The Javan rhino, the saola, or the Sumatran tiger? That would be the saola. What rare geological phenomenon in the African continent creates a natural gas flame that has been burning for decades? The door to hell, the eternal flame walls, or the lake of fire? That would be the door to hell. Which shipwreck in 1717 resulted in the discovery of one of the most significant pirate treasures ever recovered? The Whydah Galley, the Queen Anne's Revenge, or the Golden Hind? That would be the Whydah Galley. During the reign of which English king was it mandated that longbows be used by all male citizens on Sundays? King Henry V, King Edward III, or King Richard I? King Edward III. What ancient mathematical manuscript discovered in 1881 is thought to be the earliest surviving collection of mathematics? The Rhind Papyrus, Pythagoras' Codex, or the Fibonacci Scroll? And that would be the Rhind Papyrus. Which American architect designed a hotel that later became infamous for its eerie paranormal activity, known as the Stanley Hotel? Frank Lloyd Wright, Thomas Edison, or Freeland Oscar Stanley? Freeland Oscar Stanley. In 1962, which obscure species of tree was cloned and sent to space to test the effects of zero gravity on plant growth? The moon sycamore, the red spruce, or the coast redwood? And that would be the moon sycamore. The 1971 discovery of what ancient city in Turkey is considered one of the most significant archaeological finds of the 20th century? Göbekli Tepe, Troy, or Ketel Hoyuk? And that would be the Göbekli Tepe. In 1938, scientists off the coast of South Africa discovered a fish previously thought to be extinct for 65 million years. What was its name? The coelacanth, the megalodon, or the dunkleosteus? That would be the coelacanth. So, what is the name of the ancient Roman road system, the longest road stretching from Rome to Brindisi, that still exists today? The Via Appia, the Via Aurelia, or the Via Ignatia? That would be the Via Appia. Which famous adventurous expedition in the 16th century led to the first recorded crossing of the Mississippi River by Europeans? Hernando de Soto, Francisco Pizarro, Vasco Núñez de Balboa? And that was Hernando de Soto. The skeleton of which extinct bird species, discovered in New Zealand, was so large it was once mistaken for the bones of a giant human? The dodo, the moa, or the great auk? That was the moa. Which European country was the first to institute a time zone shift, later adopted by the rest of the world as daylight savings time? Germany, France, or Spain? That was Germany. What 18th century medical tool, initially used for trepanation, was repurposed for cutting holes in ice before modern drills were invented? the hand crank drill, the trephine, or the ice saw? That would be the trephine. Which eccentric scientist filed more than 700 patents but is best known for his experiments with electricity and wireless transmission? Nikola Tesla, Guglielmo Marconi, or Thomas Edison? That was Nikola Tesla. What 2,500-year-old artifact, thought to bring bad luck to anyone who owns it, was recently sold for over $10 million at auction? The Hope Diamond, the Black Orloff, or the Koh-i-Noor? That was the Black Orloff. In 1907, which lesser-known natural disaster caused more deaths in England than any war during that century? The Great Thames Flood, the North Sea Flood, or the Great Storm of 1907? That was the Great Thames Flood. Which peculiar ancient practice was used by the Chinese Han Dynasty to preserve the dead by encasing bodies in jade armor? Stone sarcophagus, the jade coffin ritual, or the jade burial suit? That was the jade burial suit. What ancient Greek festival, often overlooked in history books, involved men dressing as women in honor of the goddess Demeter? Desmorphia, Dionysia, or Eleusinian Mysteries? That was a Thesmophoria. What strange type of plant, discovered in Madagascar, uses a mechanism similar to insect traps, but instead traps small animals for nutrients? The lemur vine, the carnivorous willow, or the tree shrew pitcher plant? That's the tree shrew pitcher plant. What peculiar celestial event in 1977, detected by astronomer Jerry Amen, is still considered one of the strongest signals of potential extraterrestrial origin? The galactic chirp, the wow signal, or the Sagan burst? That was the wow signal. What lost city was found in the Honduran rainforest with aerial laser scanning technology in 2015? The White City, El Dorado, or La Ciudad Perdida? That was the White City. Which underwater city in Japan features ancient ruin-like structures whose origin is disputed as man-made or natural? The Okinawa Sunken City, the Atlantis Ruins, or the Yonaguni Monument? That's the Yonaguni Monument. In 1994, the discovery of a 3,600-year-old tomb at the Valley of the Kings revealed an unknown pharaoh. Who was this previously forgotten ruler? Pharaoh Senapke, Pharaoh Akhenaten, or Pharaoh Neferhotep? That was Pharaoh Nenebke. Which animal species discovered in the deep oceans of the Mariana Trench in 2012 has translucent skin and glows in the dark? The transparent eel, the ghost octopus, or the abyssal jellyfish? That would be the ghost octopus. What was the first deep water space object ever discovered, now classified as a dwarf planet? What was the first deep space object ever discovered, now classified as a dwarf planet, and lying in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter? Ceres, Vesta, or Pallas? That would be Ceres. And that was question 100. Thank you for playing Quiz Time. Drop your score in the comments, please, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss Quiz Time when it comes out. And it comes out quite often, a few times a week. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.